I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for letting us gather tonight, these wonderful board members and our guests. Lord, give us the guidance to make the right decisions for these students and faculty here and the staff. Lord, be with us. Amen.
I'd like to note that we do have a quorum present. The agenda was posted in a timely fashion. We are having a legal meeting according to the Open Meeting Act. Next item on the agenda is public comments.
No one signed up.
Next item is communications.
We just like to take a moment to say thank you and give our appreciation to both of our school principals that are in the back row, Miss Erica Fouch and Mr. Wyndham. This being National Principals Month, you guys certainly do a tremendous job for our community and our staff, and certainly for our students, which is the most important. But I appreciate the time and effort of what y'all do. Certainly couldn't make it here at Maud ISD without both of y'all, so we appreciate all that you do. So thank you very much.
They were just telling me earlier they do everything.
They do. They do most of everything.
All right, next item is the consent agenda. We have the minutes of the September 20 regular meeting, the September 23rd facility assessment, special called meeting, monthly financial report, tax roll, and Bailey Neon and sign. Any board member have anything they want to pull or discuss? Do we have a motion to accept items A through D of the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion.
Have a motion, we have a second?
I'll second it.
Have a second, all in favor, raise your right hand. Is unanimous. Item E, Bailey Neon and sign, do we have a motion to accept?
I'll make a motion to accept.
Have a motion, we have a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor? Like sign.
Abstain.
It passes unanimously with one abstention, Rusty Bailey. Information items, principal report and athletic.
Hello there again. Our percentages for our attendance are really doing great right now. Our pre-K, we had a couple of kids that were out a couple of weeks, but all in all, we're 98, 97, 96%. That's probably kind of where we want to stay. We are 0% of anyone not on campus because of due to COVID. So we are super excited about that. With that being that way for a couple of weeks, we've decided to kind of open some stuff up for our building. We're going to have parents come to the Halloween parties because that's very important to some. And then we're getting to go see the Clydesdales of the Express Job Express Company. They have the black Clydesdales, not with the other, not to be associated with the other Clydesdales that y'all know. Yes, but we're going to get to go see them on Wednesday. We are collecting socks, new socks, so if you guys have some freshly bought socks at your house, we'll donate to our Socktober. Our elementary student council, leadership council is working with the church under the bridge, so we're going to, at last time I talked with Mrs. Hudgens and Mr. Brown, they were at over 700 socks collected. So we do a lot of hands-on on our campus. We will see them doing all kinds of stuff, especially with math. We did a parade. Some of you, if you caught it on the live or Facebook live, the pre-K have been talking about community helpers, and Mr. Bradshaw got in on that, and so did Amanda and Miss Julie and Sophia and Mr. Van Beaver, I believe, was a part of that. And a lot of the community members came, fire department came and talked to our pre-K about being good community leaders. And so at the end, they dressed up as a community person and walked down the aisle to Dolly Parton's Working 9 to 5. So it was a great thing. Yes, we'll have to make it fun. And so next week's going to be drug-free because we're proud to be. And so we're looking for some cool pictures and all that fun stuff.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, one quick deal down there on
get there here in a second, but they're on the MSHS totals. It'll be a little different than what's there, but anyway, going back up to the top. Middle school numbers are up, as you can tell, so are high school numbers as well. Our percentages on our attendance have improved quite a bit. Sent home some letters a couple weeks ago, letting parents know, hey, you know, we're gonna have makeup time, things like that. I know there's a bunch of sicknesses and things going on. It's amazing, but a lot of that has helped with our kids' attendance in general, picking back up. So we're averaging right at about 96.98, which is almost 97 right now. Middle school numbers last year, we were at 99. This year we're at 109. High school numbers last year were 126. Right now we're sitting at 138 with the snapshot coming up pretty soon. The middle school, high school totals is 247 right now currently for both middle school and high school. Last year it was 225. Some highlights that we had the livestock judging a couple of weeks ago, and we had our AgMech students this last week that were in the state fair, and Mr. Brower got to take witness in some of that. Had several kids with blue ribbons, red ribbons, white ribbons, things like that. Some of our kids, first time to ever go to that thing, and you could just see that there was a passion for their next project. There was a couple of kids had never even seen it or been around it, and this was their first taste of it, and it was really, really awesome to watch that excitement in their lives. A couple of our kids went this past week to the Leadwell tour on Friday. Leadwell was so impressed with our kids' behavior, their mannerisms, their expertise in welding, things that they already knew coming in. They took them out for lunch, they fed them, which they hadn't done for any of the other schools around, and they also brought them back and took them to some other areas that they hadn't taken to the other schools. They're really impressed with our kids. Mr. Barrett's been doing a really good job with those kids in the ag department, especially in the welding areas. They were talking to them about jobs. If they'll take that class that we offer here, instead of starting out at $13, they're going to get to automatically jump up to $15 per hour. So it was pretty good information for our kids. A lot of them really liked it. Seniors took ACT all together on the 5th as a district. We should be getting all the results pretty soon. There's a few kids, I think, that have been getting individual results back, one at a time. We had our FAFSA night, and Texarkana College came out and helped all of our kids that were participating in that fill out the forms correctly, make sure that they're trying to get money, because the faster they fill it out, closer to October 1st, the more chance they have of better getting more money to them. So they came out and helped us. Thanks to Ms. Harrell setting that up for us. University of Arkansas and the Lincoln Tech recruiters came out to talk to our seniors about doing admissions and scholarship opportunities. The band recently went to Pine Tree for UIO marching contest. They did receive a 3, but they were complimented on their routine because it was much harder than the ones that they had been using the past previous years. There was also a lot of compliments on their performance of their music because it's also stepped up in difficulty, and they're doing a really good job. Senior pictures were finally taken, and all of our grade level kids that needed retakes were available and got those taken just this past week, and they should be set up online for them to be able to go in and order what they want when they want. Things that are coming up, we have the drug-free rally this 25th and 29th of October, and then we are starting to work on our plan for our veterans program that's coming up on November the 11th. On the back, I put in our students of the month. I didn't bring them up today. However, they are going to have an announcement. We are going to talk about those kids. I'll talk a little bit about some of them now. In our 6th grade, we had Horatio Foster. You can see there that one of the teachers put a compliment down for him as that he is a natural leader, highly knowledgeable in his craft, and that was in regards to science and technology, the robotics side specifically. They've been doing some projects with that, and he really does a really good job with that. Mr. Litchfield was very impressed with him. 7th grade, Kara Montemag, she's polite, respectful to adults and students. She works hard, especially on anything she struggles with. She isn't afraid to ask questions and is good at helping others. 8th grade, we got Anna Jo Briggs, a new student here. Always positive, stays on top of all her assignments. One of the things that they haven't talked about is her talent. She is really, really good at acting and singing. And she is in the Silver Moon Theater up there in Texarkana and does a lot of performances, a lot of them. Students of the month for high school, I'll go a little faster here. 9th grade was Mackenzie Bishop. She's been a really good kid to all the other kids. 10th grade, Bayla White, Kana Okubo, which is our new foreign exchange student. If you ever get a chance to meet with her, she is extremely brilliant. She is smart, really smart. Really good kid. She is asked to be put in pre-cal and any other math class that we can find to throw her in. She is extremely intelligent. Good kid. 11th grade, Emma Fothergill. She has been doing really well in band, stepping up and taking on extra duties. 12th grade, Mara Latham, one of our seniors, who actually won homecoming recently, has been one of our shining stars lately. I mean, she has really stepped up, helping kids, helping the young ones even, and trying to mentor them. Our faculty member of the month was Foster Fanning. Tireless effort to improve not only the band program, but his work around campus to help students achieve more with their classwork. I don't know if y'all know what our ICU deal is that we do, but basically any kid that has missed an assignment, he goes in there with them and he starts working with them to get them caught up. And he's really been doing a really good job with that.
Who's been working with them?
Mr. Fanning. Yeah, Mr. Fanning. And it's been really good. We've been fired up about that. He stays on top of them, making sure they get it turned in, they don't get zeros, things like that. And other than that, that's about it. Any questions? All right, thanks, guys.
Ready to rock and roll.
Had a great job on the smooth entrance, we didn't even notice you coming in.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Lights go off.
Turn the lights on.
Holy smokes. All right, here we go. District cross country was running last Thursday at McLeod. Had a good showing there. Hannah Rainey qualified for regionals. First time anybody's qualified for regionals since I've been here. So we're pretty fired up about that. She'll run next Monday, October the 25th. Volleyball's in a tie for fourth place right now in their district. Looking for a strong finish. Right now, if things were to go as is, they should play a play-in game and hopefully have a shot at the playoffs. Football's 5-2 on the year, 2-0 in district. We've had several players on the Texarkana Game Day Player of the Week. We had the offensive and defensive not last week, this past week, but the week before that. We played Bowles, who's also 2-0 for district, Friday at home. It's also our pink out game, so could be good festivities and a good time. Junior high volleyball, big district tournament this Saturday. Girls are getting better. Coach Blackburn's working with them, doing a really good job. Junior high football's record's now 2-2, but they're 2-0 in district. Really see a lot of improvement. Got a lot of young seventh graders on that team, first year playing, and we're really excited where those guys are at right now. You got anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is update and discussion of COVID-19 impact.
All right, currently, Mrs. Fauch alluded to it, we have 0 cases district-wide of staff and/or students. It's been that way for about the last 2 weeks. As we talked before, September was some of the highest that we saw. It dropped off, or August was, and September dropped off. Currently, we have 0 cases. Countywide cases are now under 340. I think last month we talked about it was right at 1,600, so we've certainly seen a major decrease in COVID cases in the area. That's it.
Like it. Item 8, discussion and possible action to approve Ideal Impact Services Agreement.
All right, well, we have several folks out here. Mr. Steve Beck, if you want to come up and you can introduce your folks. They've got a presentation, but we have talked about this in previous meetings, that we're looking at some energy and conservation and ways that we can save money in using what we have the most efficiently. So we are looking at partner here with Ideal Impact tonight. Steve, with that, I'll let you
Thank you, Mr. Bradshaw. We appreciate your due diligence. Bethany is here to present. Paul is with me, and it's been great working with your staff, Mr. Bradshaw.
well, thank you. Come on up.
Hey, so I always feel so at home when I get to the Maude area because I graduated from Texas High. So it's always nice to get back out here where there are some trees.
We do have those.
You do have those. So thanks for having us. I am Bethany Dietrich with Ideal Impact, and we just want to share a little bit about what we're about, what our heart is, and then tell you what we want to do for the school, and just really go through the steps we want to take to help you with your energy savings and with some controls. And so we were founded in 2009 by a gentleman who had been in the corporate world for over 30 years. He had worked in some very, very large companies, international companies, and he helped big corporations, school districts like Chicago Public Schools, Rockefeller Center was one of their clients. He helped them conserve energy and save money. But he felt a calling back in 2009 to leave that corporate job and start to work with churches. So he started working with churches and ministries. So ministries meaning any kind of churches, church schools, that kind of thing, to help give back to them. In 2015, a lot of those same people we were talking to in churches were also on school boards because people serve in those capacities. People who serve. And so they asked us, would you come out to the school districts? Would you take a look at what we're doing and bring what your model is to the school district? So we started doing that back in 2015. We now have 155 school districts in the state of Texas. We're only in Texas. And we have offices in the Houston area, Dallas area, and then we've got folks kind of all over the state, Austin, Corpus, and out here in East Texas. So really we want to provide more funding for you guys. And our focus is now providing $10 billion for ministry and education by reducing waste in your energy budgets and returning it to your M&O budget. And we really look at it as a free gift because it's money you're already spending. And so we want to turn back unrestricted funds into your budget so you can use it for something else. We don't feel like it's fair that it's going to the energy company when it could be coming back to you. All the while we are improving the district controls and what you have. Here are some of our clients. That says 143, but we're at 155 now, and we're now over $1.5 billion back to churches and school districts. And so I know Red Lick is a friend, and I know there's probably a few more that you know up there. We can't put all 155 on the slide, but we like to give you a shot of a partial list of clients that we have. We call this active revenue creation, and it actively diverts money that you're currently spending and puts it back into your M&O budget. So it slashes your utility budget and puts money back into your budget so you can spend it the way you want. It's positive cash flow, and I'll talk to you about what that means in a minute. You have no upfront costs whatsoever. Everything is paid for out of the savings that we generate through the changes that we will make. And 80-20 is how we do that, and I'll go into that a little bit more too, so you'll see what that model is like. We like to say it's offering you an endowment from the start. So an endowment of money that will continue to come to you over the next 15 years. That's our goal. So what we've done here, we've looked at 24 months of electric and gas bills. We've looked at your current energy rate contracts. We've reviewed your mechanical systems controls. We took the square footage of your facilities. We walked the buildings and we interviewed your people to find out how the buildings are used, because every school is different and everybody uses it differently. And so we want to know exactly how you guys use the buildings. The interesting part is in our billing analysis, we came up with what you're spending, which is $58,000-ish, about $58,500. The yellow portion is your consumption, and that's what you pay for when you turn the lights on or you turn the lights off. You pay for it when the lights are on. You don't pay for it when the lights are off. The green is the gas, same thing. As you use it, you pay for it. The consumption and the gas are, I believe you have a 5-cent rate, which is really great for at least for the consumption part. But the blue part is what we call demand. And non-residential buildings, and that includes, unfortunately, schools and churches, get billed for demand. And this is called KW actual demand. And demand is 50% of your bill, which we typically see 40 to 60% of the bill is demand. You can negotiate those yellow, that consumption rate, and you have done a good job doing that. But you can't negotiate that demand rate. And that demand rate is billed in dollars. In fact, yours is about $10 versus 5 cents on your consumption. So what we want to do is help you attack that demand piece and save some money. That's a really good place to start. So here's your savings chart, and what this is there's a basic commitment column, and that's really a B- grade. We look at that as B-. B- meaning that we know that we can get 24% savings for you. If we didn't partner together well, if we didn't work together well and communicate well, we could get 24%. But if we work really well and become committed stewards together, we call that an A- grade. We are proposing 28% savings, so about a third of your bill we can save you, or around $16,000 a month. The net 15-year savings is what we're really focused on, because after the district improvements are paid for, you will net around $334,000. There is another column that's invisible on the right that a lot of our customers hit, which is an A++ column. We have gone way over that, and I hope to be able to show you a couple of examples tonight, but way over the savings that we propose with the technology that we would install here at MOB. What questions do you have about this so far?
I'm doing a pretty good job.
All right, good. I guess so. I left it wide open there. Okay, so like I said, your current annual spend is about $58,000, and this is how the 80-20 works. So right now, at that committed savings level, you would save $16,000 a year. That would come off your current annual spend. But 80% of that would go to pay off the district improvements until they're paid for. This is about a 5-year payback. 6-year payback, I believe. Let me make sure I said that. Yes, about a 6-year payback, almost 6 years, if at that 80% rate. At the same time, 20% or $3,200 will go back to the district immediately. So that's the positive cash flow part. So and that's per year. So you would be taking in $3,275, and we would reduce your annual spend during the project from 58 to about 55. The annual spend after the project is over would be reduced from 58 to 42, because we're done and we've left you with all of the data and the information, the knowledge to run this, with that net 15-year savings of $334,453. And I'll pull this up at the end so that we can take a look at it again, because I really want to share with you what we're going to do for you. So what are we going to do for you? We call this our Total Campus Energy Optimization. So as I mentioned before, we have 7 industry fellows that work at Ideal Impact, and we are going to use the experience that they've all had from saving energy and improving comfort in thousands of buildings. We now condition over 85 million square feet in the state of Texas in churches and school districts. So we have seen everything. We've worked with a lot of different situations, and there's just a lot of experience that backs up the 3 of us that are in this room. We're going to make improvements to the controls and processes at the start. So we're going to put new controls on 54 units, and we're going to make major improvements on your HVAC equipment as well. We'll have a few teams combing through, and the first one will be the people that are improving your equipment. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. We're going to reduce relative humidity. Nobody has any humidity in East Texas, right? No. Texas, the whole state of Texas has a lot of humidity, and that is the big culprit that pulls on that demand. So what we want to do is reduce relative humidity. We have 9 core strategies on how to reduce relative humidity. And I'll give you an example of one. In Fort Worth, we worked with a church called Christ Chapel. And they had 3 services. They had the 8 o'clock service, the 9:30 service, and the 11 o'clock service. The 8:30 service, they had to subcool the sanctuary down to freezing, and they freeze out all the old people at the 8:30 service, or the 8 o'clock service, to keep it cool enough by the 3rd service. So when we got there, they wanted to put in a new unit on top of the sanctuary, and we said, please don't spend that $100,000. Let us take a look at it. Let us do it, try to do what we can do best first, and then you can make that decision. You can spend that money. We don't sell equipment, so we weren't going to gain by selling them anything as far as equipment goes. So they finally let us do what we do best. This was in April. The meter read 319,000 kilowatts. By June, in about 6 weeks, we had reduced that down to 167 kilowatts. And they were comfortable in all 3 services. And a year later, we had reduced it down to about 120 kilowatts. And Encore sent somebody out to check the meter because they thought the meter was broken. But it was really the changes that we put in and installed and our strategies that made it better. We're going to monitor and analyze the results. Every month, you will get a savings report from us that only looks at the baseline month to the month that we're looking at now. So we will use only your bills and only what you're being charged to determine what your savings is. There's no other savings. You will save on maintenance. You will save on life of equipment. It will be better because of the way we use the equipment, but we don't count that in the savings. We only count your bill and now what you're saving on that bill. And we show you how to, in an open Excel spreadsheet, how to figure that, and we are very transparent about the savings. So we're going to make those improvements. We already talked about the controls. We're going to look at the zoning. We're going to make sure that the equipment that is on the roof is zoned to the right place. We have had to move thermostats before, or controls. We have had to do all kinds of things to make sure that the rooms are zoned properly. So if you ever, and Mr. Bradshaw, I don't know if you have places where one room is freezing and then next door that it's burning hot, that's probably poor zoning. And we will do our best to make sure we can change that if we can. Sometimes it's physically not possible. But zoning is critically important, and we will give you a zoning map so you will know where every unit cools and what thermostat or control is controlling that. We will weatherize the building. Now, we don't do insulation or the white, fancy roofing, reflective roofing, but we do come in and we take a look at every window, every outside window, and every outside door, and we will caulk, and we will make sure that there's no expensive conditioned air getting out. We do a lot of door sweeps, but the weatherization has been called worth the whole project with some districts. Giddings ISD, I don't know if we've talked to you about that, but Roger Dees out down in Giddings said that the whole cost of the project was worth the weatherization piece. Because it's a lot of little things that help us save money, and that's a little thing, but it adds up. We're going to look at comfort issues, where you have those humidity issues, and I know we uncovered some of those when we were out here to do our analysis. Operating strategies, usage, and needs. We want to make sure that we operate this system the way you operate your schools, and again, that's extremely important. Probably our secret sauce, the best thing that you'll be getting here is our Ideal Impact Campus Optimizer software, and it's a patent-approved software now, and it will go over all 54 pieces of your HVAC equipment and all the spaces that they serve. So what it does, and I'll run through here real quickly, is it solves this multidimensional matrix to maximize both comfort and savings. So we could tell you to turn your thermostats up to 80 every day, but then what would happen? You would have a lot of complaints, you'd have very uncomfortable people, you'd have uncomfortable students, and the learning environment would not be good. That's not what we want to do. We let you pick what you want the temperature to be. We do not put any set points in the contract. You get to pick. So right now, you have to worry about temperature and comfort, 54 pieces of equipment, 60 rooms, 80 events. We've estimated those. And that's a whole lot to worry about. That's a whole lot to run around and make sure that it's good for everybody. But if we start adding in, reduce that consumption, that yellow bar, part of the bar, or gas, the green part, reduce that demand, that actual kilowatt, 15-minute peak, demand peak every month, which I don't think I explained that very well. What the utility company does is they take a look at the highest 15-minute per month peak that you make, and that's what they charge you for the whole month. And that's what that demand charge is. Now, reduce the relative humidity. If we're asking you to do these things, it becomes pretty impossible for one individual to do it, much less 5 engineers. Improve indoor air quality, ramp times. Every room in your district will ramp differently. This room is bigger than your office. right? It's bigger than that conference room that we met in when I first came here. They're going to ramp differently because of the size. How many windows are facing west? Are the windows facing east? So the ramp times are real important, and everything shouldn't ramp up at once because that equals demand. That's when those peaks get hit. So we want to make sure we ramp those up to be specifically right for the room that they cover. What about the Texas weather? I know we had craziness back in February. Pretty much the whole state had a crazy week of weather. We look at the next 7 days forecast, and we put this all together with the weather forecast so we know what we need to do. Over 8 meters and a bunch of rate schedules. So what Campus Optimizer does is it pulls your event calendar in with the next 7 days weather forecast, and with a push of a button, it cooks up a perfect recipe for all of your schools in your district, and then you push out with Simple Comfort connection to all of the controls that recipe, so that you don't have to run around and make changes to every single room. The software does that for you. Okay, real quickly here. We will repeat this process through the first few months because we have different seasons. We want to make sure we get it right. We really believe, and a core principle of ours is to train you on every aspect of the plan and make sure the right people are trained. Multiple people need to be trained. And we will train anybody we can train. We love to come to in-service trainings for teachers because we like to teach them how to do some of these principles at their houses. We like to teach people how to save energy. And we love to teach the teachers because they are the ones who can help us be a really good partner out there. We'll build and tune a detailed energy plan. We'll make sure that we fine-tune it, that it's documented for all of those different levels of people that we're training. We will be here to coach, adjust the plan, and consult for the term of the agreement. So over that 6 years, we are with you. We do not install it and turn tail and run. We are with you. We want to make sure you understand exactly how to use it. We want to adjust it. And any consulting that you need, let's say you want to add a new school or you want to add a wing onto a building, we would love to help for free, help consult you in that so that, you know, we can change a line on a drawing really easy, but you can't move a wall really easily. So we really do like to help, and if a solar company comes out or an LED company comes out and you're not sure about the contract, you're not sure if you should do it, we're happy to do that. Our industry fellows have done that for years and years and years. And so we just want to be here to be your energy partner. The goal is for you to be self-sustaining so that you can get to that $334,000 over 15 years. And that's what we really want to see. So the agreement is pretty simple. We pay to implement the savings plan. Each month you send us your electric and gas bills, or we can get them online. That's what we've been doing for most people because that's easier. We adjust for changes. So there are things that are beyond our control. Read dates aren't always every 30 or 31 days. Sometimes they read in 28 days or 29 days. Weather. When we had that weather in February, we adjusted for that weather. It's not fair. It's not fair for us to take credit for that weather. And the heat went up and the heat was being used more, right? It's not fair. We will adjust back to the baseline for that. Added or subtracted space. If you decide to take some space out, we'll take that space out. We're not going to keep it. It won't be the same as when we started. Things change over 6 years, that's why. We calculate the savings based on your actual rates each month, and you pay us a portion of the quarterly savings, 80%, until you reach the project fee. And then the rest of the savings, as quickly as we can get you paid off, goes to the bottom line for years to come. But you get to keep 20% up front. So a couple of quick, if you can indulge me, just quick examples. Sweeney ISD is south of Houston. When we approached them, they had just finished doing a major project. They put on that fancy white roofing. They'd done all new insulation. They had all new HVAC equipment and all new LED lights. And so Dr. Tori Hill there said, well, I don't know if you guys can save us anything, but come on out, take a look. Our analysis was free. We don't charge them like we don't charge you. And we came back with kind of a low number. 21% is just right above where we would say, there's not really any savings here. But they decided to go ahead and go for it. That was a $2 million over 15-year number. And here's what they did. They are great stewards of their energy, and they were really great partners, and they still are. But they got us to 35% savings, which was just incredible. And of course, that ROI for them was much quicker than the 6 years, if that was what their ROI was. I'm not sure, but for you, if we could get you from 28 to 35, it would go a lot faster to get that paid off. Stockdale's another school that when we approached them, they really needed a lot of new equipment, but Daniel Fuller did not want to spend 15 to 20 years worth of money, which is what it would have cost to replace all that equipment, and then have to do it again in 15 or 20 years. So he saw the goodness in this, and they were spending way too much on their utility, way. So we proposed 49% savings and at a $3.4 million 15-year rate. And you can see that they hit 49, but that they could come back down to about 44. It takes a little time to ramp up there. But what he did was he started replacing equipment with our savings. So as he saved, he just took that money that was now coming into his budget instead of going to the utility company and actually purchased equipment. And I think he's purchased something like 70 tons of equipment since. And he's still going. And then lastly, Franklin ISD is down by College Station. They were spending a lot of money, $515,000. They had a huge amount of humidity problems. Their junior high, one wing was freezing or burning up. The other wing was burning up. So they got complaints from both. They had humidifiers in the rooms, and the humidifiers take more energy, and they weren't working. They were emptying those out multiple times a day. They weren't working. So we came in, we proposed 59%, and we were able to just about hit that 59% for them, which, can you imagine, 59% of your utility bill was reduced. Just really amazing. The junior high teachers met our guys. They work after hours if you need them to, so that they don't interrupt school. And a group of teachers met our guys outside one night, and the guys were kind of going, uh-oh, this could be good or this could be bad. But it was really a good story because the teachers thanked them for the comfort, because they hadn't been comfortable in their building for many, many months or years. So there's your savings. It's good, 28%, a third. With that comes district improvements. It looks like that from an 80-20 perspective. And Steve, could we get the board savings handed out, please? And I want to read you how this works, because this is guaranteed. This is guaranteed. I'll let you read along with me. Yeah, I've got one. So it's on the front page at the bottom in bold. There is no upfront cost to Maud ISD, none. Maud ISD pays 80% of the actual gas and electric savings until the net payments meet the total project fee. The total project fee is $77,000. If 80% of the actual savings, the actual electric and gas savings in each quarter equals less than the minimum quarterly fee of about $2,400, Ideal Impact will send Maud ISD a check for the difference. And how that works is you will get invoiced on a quarterly basis, $2406.44, and that invoice will come to you. But if we don't meet that savings, then a check for the difference will be attached to that invoice. So we guarantee that you will never pay more than that $77,000 district improvements, and it will all be paid for out of savings. So what questions do you have?
So let's say that we don't meet it and you send that check back, that adds now back onto what we owe, though, right?
It does.
It's not forgiven.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. Because we make all the improvements up front,
No.
and we've invested that money. I mean, we've already invested in you with the free audit, which we're happy to do. But we would have already made those improvements, so yes, it will be added on.
And the 6-year payoff, that's an estimate of, if we get the savings y'all estimate, we will
At
get.
that 28%,
And it
yes.
sounds like the contract 6 years, and we get basically support for 6 years. Is that
You
right?
get support for as long as you're still paying us that fee, that 80%.
Okay.
So if we pay it off early, the support would.
Yes, you have the option of keeping us though, if you like. So after, and this is always a big question, great question. You're going to be able to do this on your own, I promise you. You won't really need us, but if you want us, then at the end, remember that piece of the software that pushes it out to the thermostats or controls? That's called Simple Comfort Connection. That's $2 to keep that updated is $2 per month per zone. So it'd be $54, 54 units times $2 per month. So that's about $108 a month, which we try to keep that low for you. So that would be what you would pay to keep that function and keep us as coaching and being there for you. And you can make that decision then. It's, you know.
You said we can control the temp where we want to be, but y'all
Yes.
control how it ramps up and ramps down, is that right?
That's right. So
if
we
there's
will,
complaints of discomfort or things not coming on early, y'all adjust that?
absolutely. And that's what that ramp-up period is all about, because it may not act the way we thought it was going to act. We will come through all of your units and we will optimize those and make sure that they're all working properly. You'll get an inventory of what's not working properly that we can't fix, because we don't fix big things. But if we see filters that haven't been cleaned in 2 years, we will let you know. We will give you a report card of the whole system. But we will fix and optimize your equipment, and then the Campus Optimizer software works along with the controls, works really well with that. But yes, anything, you will have a coach, you'll have a project manager the first few months, then you'll have a coach for years after that. And any comfort issues, and that's where the communication comes in. If we can communicate well together and we can know when there are comfort issues, we will get that fixed.
One more question. How do you lower the relative humidity? Is that kind of what air conditioning does? Or?
Yes, so exactly. An air conditioning unit is meant to both remove the heat and remove relative humidity. So that's what it's meant to do. The problem is it doesn't do it together at the same time very well. So you end up really running those compressors hard, and you run them too much and too hard. So we have 9 different ways that we go about it. One way is that you may be driving by the school, Mr. Bradshaw, and you may hear that one of your units is on at 7 o'clock at night or 5 in the morning, and you're going, what's going on? Well, we're running it to get the humidity out of the air so that by the time the ramp-up time comes and we need to cool that, humidity's gone and we can cool it without having to take the humidity out at the same time.
We're not letting it get as high before we turn it back on.
That's right.
Okay.
And you know, because when people come in, they bring in heat, they bring in humidity. We all, that's what we do when we
Some
come
of us
into a
more than
room.
others.
Some of us more than others. And so yeah, but that's just one way.
Go ahead.
That's just one way that we reduce humidity. So, yeah. Good questions.
Now, when we look at this, your contract is going to be for certain buildings, it's not every
Yes.
building.
Okay.
You want to hit on
I
that?
have that right here. I had that note right here. So, yes, so some of your buildings, you're doing a really great job, and we did not find enough savings at those buildings. And so the buildings that we excluded for the savings project are the administration building,
You're excluding?
mhm,
Okay.
the elementary gym, and the Stewart gym. So what we've done is we put a number together. If you want to do the controls and have the Campus Optimizer on those buildings, we put a number together. It would be a cash number because we don't have enough savings there. But we put a number together, gave it to Mr. Bradshaw, and we can take a look at that later. We can take a look at that whenever you'd like to. But we can add that and have it all under the Campus Optimizer's software system as well.
Could that be because either it's really efficient or because it's so bad that we can't make it efficient?
No, it was very efficient. Your kilowatt hours per square footage were at the admin 6.3, at the elementary gym 5.1, and Stewart Gym 3.8, which is really, really low. And for instance, your technology office,
It could be lower.
10.4. Well, here's the thing.
Surprising that our gym is that efficient.
I know, because usually gym doors are propped open,
I will
right?
tell you that
That's why we don't have a high
that whole-
ceiling.
That could be. We had that whole conversation of all places, the gym's not, I mean, Turner, I know we've had that told.
I just
So-
tap on my phone.
The middle school is 8.7, high school 9.2, so those were higher. Now, you will probably have some savings if we put in the controls and a Campus Optimizer, but we just can't guarantee that because it's already so low.
So this is with the equipment we have right now, y'all's program will make it run that much less.
Yes.
Equipment we have, not changing any of the air conditioning units out or none of that, what we have right now, this would bring it
And
down.
that's what we do. We don't think that you should replace all of your equipment. I wouldn't, if I had one unit go out in my home, I have 2 units. I wouldn't replace the second one. Trust me, it's too expensive, right? We don't believe that you should do it that way. We believe that you should optimize what you have, replace it as you, like you're doing your LEDs, replace it as you need to replace it. That's really smart. And we don't sell equipment, we optimize it. There'll be sensors up there, I keep doing this because they're rooftop units. There'll be sensors up there that aren't working. They're not communicating with the thermostats that you have. We'll fix those. There's places where outside air is probably coming in at too great an amount. That's humidity, big time. We'll fix that. It's like tuning a piano. There are so many things you do to bring in just that little amount, but those little amounts add up to a lot of savings. 28%.
What if it doesn't work?
Well, then we won't get paid.
Okay. If it doesn't work, do y'all come in and go, okay, well, y'all didn't change the filter like I told you to. Y'all didn't do this like we told you to.
Nope,
So there's nothing in the contract that says anything about
nope.
deferred maintenance.
Nothing in the contract, nothing about maintenance, nothing about set points.
But we would continue to be indebted to you. We just wouldn't be paying.
You would be paying us, yes. So that's why we want to work together in a partnership. Most of our partnerships work very well. In fact, 99% of them work very well. The only time, and people always ask, well, tell me one that didn't, right? We had Hurricane Harvey hit in Houston. So when that hit in Houston, we had a lot of churches at the time, mostly churches, that were underwater. And of course, electricity wasn't even running at all. So that was a time when we had to step back and work with our partners to make sure that they got back on their feet and we could be there for them when they got back. But yes, I mean, theoretically, you could be owing us money forever, but that's not how we set this up. And the partnership is what we really want to hopefully have. I can't talk enough about how important that communication partnership is. What other questions?
All mine through her speech.
And I've talked to some of our neighboring districts that are in the beginning stages of it and so far, been pleased with what they've seen. There is a learning curve, as people get used to doing that. I think we saw it here, but also just with your teachers and that, if something changes, we got to kind of work with all those things. But from the superintendents I've talked to that have started this program, that's been kind of their Once they got it in and going, they've been happy with it. Some of them are in it for about a year this far, but they've seen some savings out of that. And I think the savings piece goes back to why we can't guarantee savings on some buildings, so we're not going to add those in there and add that additional cost. The cost, if we do want to go back in there, roughly, I think it was in the mid-30s or something, if we wanted to add the remaining thermostats, is what we discussed. That's not a hard figure, but that's about where it would be.
32,164.
That would be kind of what we would pay. What I would recommend at this point is looking at this contract. Let's get that put in, see how it works before we invest the rest of that on our own. If everything works the way that it should, then we can always come back and look at that and add it at a later date if we feel like it's still going to be beneficial for us.
So if we take that savings and we utilize it really efficiently and we do things, new units, LEDs, and that savings gets even greater and we pay this off quicker, then more quickly we add that additional cash flow back to our M&O. Do we lose anything for paying it off? If the services are still 6 years, all those things are still there?
The services stop when the partnership stops. But if you want to,
When we pay you off?
when you pay us off. But if you want to keep us in, if you want to keep the SCC piece and you want to keep
There's
us,
that $1,200 figure up to what she quoted us.
it's about $100 a month.
Okay, so it's still great incentive to pay it off early and keep you around.
Yeah, I mean,
Pay it off, or we're
it,
doing something right.
Right, that's it, I don't want to see it to be a counter.
that's right.
So, and we're going to talk later, but, as we certainly have an aging HVAC. If we start replacing those units and we start doing the LED savings, and even as what they talk about, the education of our folks, start turning off the gym ACs when nobody's in there. Some of those types of, I'm just giving you a hard time. But as we do that, we certainly can increase those savings and pay this off sooner. But as she mentioned, we go back to our facility assessment. One of the things they talked about was all the window caulking, all the caulking that was outside, all the weatherization, all those things that we're being told we need to do, for those buildings right now. That's going to be part of this. And really, if we're saving, it's not going to cost us right off the bat. It's going to be something that we can use these savings for moving forward. Now, there's certainly the payback period that we're going to pay that off, but it's not basically coming out of our set M&O budget as it would if we did it on our own.
You're already paying it now. You're paying it to the utility company. And I'll say, from the teacher standpoint, you get to pick how much they can move it up or move it down. All up to you. We're going to give you guidelines, but at the end of the day, it's all up to you. It's not in the contract. Nothing like that will be in the contract. It's easy to change. So if you need to make changes, and I know there's a ramp up time. There's a period where everybody has to get used to it. But if you make changes, you make it to your schedule. And whoever keeps the schedule, and a lot of times it's an admin, can push the buttons to load it into Campus Optimizer and push it out to your controls. So it's not like you have to have a facilities person, a maintenance person, an energy manager sitting in a computer taking change orders and making these things happen all the time, or running around to different rooms and making the changes. It's done via the calendar.
And y'all actually integrate the weather reports into the software.
We take it from the National Weather Service next 7 days. And you know how crazy that gets, and especially in the spring. Heck, in February it got crazy, but it's.
It's gonna rain all last week.
And it didn't. It didn't rain. Yeah. I think we had some of that in Dallas area too.
How long does it take to implement?
So we would, in fact, I was just talking to Steve about that. We would want to get this kicked off perhaps this week, if we could get it kicked off. Now, that's the kickoff, or it's the initial meeting we have with you and as many people as possible who will listen. But then we'll get you on the schedule. And so once we get started in a district this size, we'll be done in a week. It will not take long.
No COVID delays, we can't get materials.
Well, so far so good. I'm not going to promise that we're not going to have supply chain issues, but so far we're doing pretty well in that arena.
Very interesting process. The person that thought of this approach, using the savings to pay, was clever. I mean,
That was our
complimentary
CEO.
way, not in.
Yeah. I'll tell him you said so.
Anything else?
So it's your recommendation?
We've looked at this, we've been talking probably 6 months. We talked to multiple companies. The folks that we looked at, I think, for our situation right now, I certainly recommend moving forward with this in the 80/20.
That was a great presentation. You didn't over-present. You've done this before.
A few times. Thank you so much.
You know what I took from this? I took that there's not enough people in the athletic using the weight room.
That's why she said it's very hot. You know, at least the one thing he took from this is there's not enough people using that weight room.
Sorry, Coach. Go ahead. All right, Jack.
So, getting to it, but like the other ACUs and the other places.
Yeah, so that will, that really doesn't affect them, and we've talked about this, that if we do start replacing those units as part of this contract or agreement, they'll come out on new units, later in that point and optimize them to make sure that it works with
No additional cost.
no additional cost to what we have at this point. So, we did talk about that we know that we have an aging HVAC unit, and we're going to talk about moving forward with replacements as we go into this over the next several years, and that's going to be a piece. And then for us, even if those are more efficient and we save more money, it helps us pay these things off early. And again, if we can get this paid off, you start using that same savings to start implementing more of those HVAC replacements or whatever we may choose to do.
I mean, $142,000 is not very bad. This looks like that's what it's gonna cost
What's that?
for this total thing.
It's wound up being another 34 line they've done everywhere else too.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, you figure the 77 plus what we gotta pay them base over the next 6 years, $142,000.
Well, that, I think the 77 is the total cost.
Total
And then the
cost is
32 would be
70.
additional. We're just paying it off at
Well, no, what I'm
2,400.
saying is you got 77 to fix the facility, right?
And get the software.
And get the software and all that. But we're gonna pay you $2,400 every quarter
Yes,
until we get you paid off.
till you pay the
Right, so if
$77,000.
you did it over 6 years, $142,000 for both combined.
No.
Am I figuring that wrong?
No. The $77,000 is all you will pay. That's it.
It's just an estimate at 2,400 if you take us 6 years. 2,400 a quarter would take approximately 6 years if that were a minimum.
5 years.
It's actually, yeah.
That's what I'm,
Is it a quarter,
I guess I'm confused.
Yes, it's $2,400 a quarter.
That's not a fee to, the 2,400 is not a fee to them in addition to.
No. That's the minimum payment we have to make to pay that $77,000.
And our
So now
goal-
if we save more,
Yeah.
then we would pay more.
Yes, our goal is that you're paying us more and you're paying it off faster.
Okay, all right, I'm sorry, that's where I was,
No.
I was
That's
thinking
okay.
we were paying $2,400 or $2,400 quarterly.
On top of the
Basically your fee for doing this.
That's how you got to the 140.
Yes, yeah.
Yep.
No, it'll be 77 for this. If we choose to add the additional controllers later to move into this, that would be another 32,000 for the controllers and the optimization of those units and the plan for the rest of those buildings.
It's not
There's just not enough
one time.
savings in there for them to be able to put that into
For the
this.
additional buildings, we do one payment and pay it. That's not, there's no.
You pay
fund.
half and then up front, and then when we're done, you pay the other half.
But basically it'd be a cash.
A week later, we pay the other half.
It would be fast, we're pretty good.
Say quarterly, almost, $400 a quarter.
I mean, bigger schools, we just finished installing Longview, that took us about 4 months. So, it's Longview,
60.
yeah.
So for us, it'd be pretty quick. So they're doing 54 of our, we have 81 total air conditioner units in our district, so 54.
You see how like coffee we make?
No aluminum foil on the windows.
They did. They spent some time, a couple of times they come out and look.
No aluminum foil. You laugh about that. We did build a chimney one time to vent around a hot air coming out off the roof. I don't know what unit it was, but we actually built a chimney so that it would go over the decorative brick wall they built. Because it wasn't going up over that wall, and it was sucking right back into the attic, so. You know, those are things we find that are just, we never know what
There'll
we're,
be some of those here.
yeah.
There'll be some surprise.
Always is.
You know that rock deal was in.
All right. So there's two separate action items. Number 8 would be the service agreement, and then the next one would be choosing that 80/20 payment plan. So I guess we could start with number 8.
Okay. Any more questions on the discussion to approve the Ideal Impact Services Agreement? All good? Do we have a motion to approve the Ideal Impact Services Agreement?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
Rusty?
Russell.
All right. And all in favor, raise your right hand. Good deal. Do we need any questions or discussion on the Impact Payment Plan Agreement? Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion that we approve the Ideal Impact Payment Plan Agreement.
Do we have a second? All in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. 10. Congratulations and thank you.
Thank you so much.
Moving on, item 10, discussion facility. We're not going to discuss it, we're going to discuss it.
Who's second, the second motion?
David?
Okay, thank you.
You can just sign on the blue. If you don't mind, I've got you on green, and Terry, I've got you on pink. And the second. Yes, sir. We'll get our computer out of here with the computer and.
So the yellow pages there.
Get done this week. They got to get done right now.
Yeah, we'll communicate with you or the others. I've got the signatures for here as well.
That's the only ones we need to sign.
I've got, yes, sir. So the secretary put it pink, I didn't make you wear a skirt.
Well, if it's kilt, it's cool.
Hey, Melford?
Discussion of facility assessment.
Yes.
Development of facility plan.
So, facility assessment we had presented to us by TASB, obviously gave us some areas that we need to consider, and some being maintenance, some of them being long-range planning. Since our last facility meeting, I've met with WRA Architects last week, start discussing, really looking at what it takes for us to build a long-range facility plan. One, they'll look at property of the district for any and all future plans and where we may locate or relocate. They're also going to look at, one of the questions we had, as far as, renovations that may be needed in the cafeteria, also, possibly other buildings, high school addition, possibly even of, one of the things that came out of that was having libraries that were undersized. So just kind of looking at all of those things and start giving us an idea of where we could look in the future. So our next steps out of that, they're going to kind of give us a proposal of what it would take to develop that facility plan. And then also development of that facility committee to start looking at things that we see around the campus that will bring in not only our faculty and staff, but also community members to help start guiding us on where we need to go. We know right now we don't have any just overall immediate needs that are falling in, but obviously we have aging buildings that we're going to have to look at as something moving forward. So our goal right now would be to talk to them. They help us walk through some of these things and how to develop these plans and committees, and will help us lead into developing a facility plan for our future of things that we may need to address. So are there any other thoughts after our last meeting, or any other questions that you may have as far as moving forward?
Have him come back and start earlier.
I understand that.
But, if I understand right, we were just looking, probably more than likely just 2 facilities that we would.
Those are the 2 that he had brought out as being, kind of that primary, being either in that cafeteria, and then also the high school building would be in some of the premier. Also, he discussed the undersized libraries, primarily at the elementary school, more so than the others, as being areas that we should consider. And again, his presentation certainly was very thorough of all the things.
Some kind of went along with the same assessment, just from the, not knowing what he found.
I think, we'd had those discussions in the past, that was some of the things, the areas that we knew would be coming up as we start to look at, future needs of the district.
So you're suggesting to bring them out again?
It won't be Tasby who did the facility assessment. Of course, we're under a maintenance contract that he can come out, and they will come out annually and give us updates on that. Any presentations won't be quite as thorough as doing what this last one was. They'll update that dashboard, and we can share that dashboard and that information as they do that. What WRA is actually an architectural firm that does primarily schools throughout the state, and they go through those facility plans on really not specific, here's what this building will be, but long range. If these are the issues that you're looking at, what would you do? Some of the questions are, if we were to expand, where would those next places go? If we were to rebuild, where would that go on our property? So they look at their property maps and start mapping out, in the future, if you do this, here are some options and places that you may want to look at. They're also going to help us answer the question. One of the recommendations of TASB was the replacement versus remodeling cost of the cafeteria. That it would cost us more to try to fix it than to replace it. They can start giving us some insight into whether or not they believe that to be true or not to be true. So they came out, we walked the facilities, we went through the kitchen area. When we think of the cafeteria, some of the kitchen areas that we have, the storage, the small freezers, the restrooms that we've discussed in the past of not having accessible restrooms. So he kind of looked at those things just as an overall. So the next step would be kind of what it would take to bring out a team and really start walking through these things and really looking at the in-depth needs and what our plan could be, where those things would be. Would it be remodeled? Would we need to look at, a replacement? Would it be, could we repurpose those buildings? Those are some of the questions we all had after that task. So this will give us a practical team of folks that will help us answer some of those.
So that is your recommendation, bring it back out?
Yeah, for that WRA, I do think that's what we need. We did talk to Mr. Lamb, our previous architect. Currently, he is kind of semi-retired, but when I discussed with him, he's got a lot on his plate right now. But this group is a team, and this is what they do. And they have some services that we may not have.
As soon as...
They came out last week, so they were going to put some beds and stuff as far as what that would take to get them back out here. So as soon as I know, we'll get them out here as soon as possible.
I didn't give you any introduction.
It was just a consultation to come walk the campus, see what we had, what we were looking at. We talked about what we needed and what we'd like to see, which would help us develop that plan. So they'll come back on, their recommendations on how we can go about doing that.
I haven't reached out to you when they would.
I haven't heard back from them since last week.
They can know before the next meeting.
Yes. So I met with them Monday.
That's what I was getting at. Do you?
Yeah, I'll absolutely before then. I just don't have it today. We're still waiting on that information from them. But they will look at it. And they did talk about even consulting with David in a kind of consulting role with Mr. Lamb, because he knows everything that we've done here, and he's done us a good job. So really bringing him on, even possibly as a team, if he's willing to do that, just to give him kind of the things in the history of the district and how things have been done and where things may be, and use his expertise as well.
It could be a resource.
Very much so. David did a very good job. Did a very good job for us. So, but that's kind of our next steps after that facility assessment that I think we need to take. So I should have more information soon for you from that group.
Then no action there. We're going to item 11, discussion of HVAC replacement plan.
HVAC replacement plan. Let me pull this up real quick. We, as we saw through that facility assessment, our HVAC certainly is an area. Oh my goodness, what was that? I almost set the whole thing down. So when I went through and kind of pulled up and looked, there he goes. They broke all of our HVAC systems down for us. We have 21 units that are 18 years or older currently. So what I went through and did was develop kind of a 7 or 8 year plan, depending on how we want to do this, as far as trying to really replace these older units. So I had Aaron now kind of look at this and just give me some ideas of what it would take. But these 21 units, these units above here are mainly our middle school, ag classrooms, some of our older units here. All these ones in yellow are actually the ground units around our cafeteria. There's 8 units still around that cafeteria that are 18 to 19 years old that we need to look at. And I just highlighted those because depending on what we may do with some of that. We may or may not want to consider those at this point. But 21 units, if we wanted to replace all of these, is going to be right at about 100,000, 104,000 is what Neil told me today as he priced those out if we wanted to replace all of those at one time. Now, we certainly can back up and do, half of that, maybe in that $60,000 range. But the goal was trying to figure out how are we going to replace an aging unit where we don't just go in and do them all at one time. But over these next 7 to 8 years, we can kind of break these out in about that range. This is the biggest chunk. If we look at kind of, I'll go down here to year 2, much smaller version right here. This is probably a $40,000 to $50,000 replacement that we could look at for the following. It doesn't have to be the following year, but the next year. But you can see these are going to be 15 years old currently. So if we wanted to replace those next year, they would be 16. If we waited 2 years, of course, then they would be 18 years old. But starting trying to break it down, we're trying to chunk these out more than what we have been. We're at a point now when we're trying to do these 2 to 4 units a year. We're really no longer choosing which units go out. They're kind of making that choice for us as we've been kind of waiting into it. But that's basically what we look at.
But what you would want to just go ahead and just replace units, not knowing if you were going to rebuild.
Right, and that's where the cafeteria, why it's yellow. We know the next one is going to be roofs. We got 2 major roof issues, the middle school and that science wing. The oldest units we have are on top of that roof. So if we're going to replace that roof, all those need to be replaced as well. So we may look at just doing that chunk, waiting to see what we're going to do on that cafeteria, and then chunking out the rest of these next few buildings over the next 7, 8 years. And again, if we get in a scenario where we don't want to spend it that year, we can push it off to another. As we get to some of these, like currently this unit here, which is all at the admin building, I think this is the 3rd year, if we just go by age. In 3 years, we'll be looking at 15. You've got your elementary school that had a bunch of those replaced in 11. So in 4 years from now, they're going to be hitting 15 into 16. So you can kind of stage this out over the next decade. It doesn't have to be every year, but we can kind of flip-flop those years. But within the next 8 to 10 years, we can have all those units replaced. And then when they do come back up again, we're doing them in a much smaller version. If we do them all at one time, then they're all going to go out at the same time, and you're going to have to commit that kind of resources again. So this was just kind of breaking that apart over these next 7 to 8 years. And then after this last year, which actually I think this is the gym ones that we put in, would be at that 15 to 17 years old out of the gym. Then everything after this currently is 3 years old or newer. So then you can kind of start again back in that smaller chunks, maybe of doing 2 to 4. But that question was asked to me last time. How can we do that? So just spend some time kind of breaking this apart. And it's not anything that I'm asking necessarily to approve tonight, but I do think it's a plan we've been working with Air Now. But I do think at a minimum we need to consider soon our plan to replace these units that are 20 to 25 years older. And again, like I said, the next oldest one on our deal will be that cafeteria. I think the direction we may go on that, we do something different there. We may need to wait on that. We can push those back.
So 7 units,
Do what?
so the 7 units are above, that are
Mm-hmm.
above.
I think there's a couple more that are above that.
Can I
Absolutely, please ask.
What's the life expectancy of air conditioning?
Well, we're told right now it's about 15 years.
Okay.
Now, we've got several there that are 25. We've got some that are 18 and 19. So we certainly can get more than that. But I think we don't have a plan at least in place to start replacing close to 15. We get in that scenario where every one of those 25s could go out tomorrow. And it's going to cost more to fix it than it would be. Now, we've been pretty lucky. And we can adjust that and say we replace at 18 years. This is based on trying to start replacing or looking closer to 15.
That's I just was wondering what the scale was if we decided where we were.
When I talked to basically Neil, if it's over 15 years old and it's a major repair, his recommendation is going to be at that point that, you need to start looking at replacing.
Can you get the units?
He just told me he can. Now when, I don't know. So I just told him right now what this was about was kind of giving a cost of what these would cost us roughly, just to get an idea so we could have this discussion.
And do we have to have the roof replaced first?
Probably going to need to replace the roof and the units together because they're going to have to pull all the old units off and then do replace that.
So all the 25-year ones are the ones that are on.
Those are all in the middle school, yes.
Which one of all those are on? Is that the only ones that are in the middle school?
All the ones here in the middle school, we've replaced several that are up there that we would take off with the new roof and put back. These units that are squitting on the ground are gonna be, some of them are on the elementary, I believe. And then some of these over here are gonna be your, I think those are also middle
So
school.
it's GM?
Up here, those 19s. And
Was that
then this one's in the weight room, so it's just on there because it's 23. They wouldn't put that same one back if we wanted to do it. Now we may just keep running until it falls apart.
They don't need air conditioning in White Room.
It's some kind of Eubank something or other, I don't know what it is. And then, of course, we have the one up there. So some of those I think are even on, I'd have to go pull that up for each specific unit. But I know the oldest ones are the ones that are sitting on top of the middle school.
If you say 15 is the cutoff, then that's what we're working toward.
Yeah, I think those are really what we need to get to, particularly. And we can split that off and we can kind of push it back, but at some point we do need to make it. Now, one thing we do have, and Mr. Van Deaver and I have kind of talked about this, financially right now, there are some ESSER monies that'll help. We're really dedicating all our ESSER grant money to education and to teacher salaries, but that is freeing up some money that we possibly could use. But really, when we look at this, I think worst case scenario, if we did a big AC unit along with these roofs, which is our next discussion, I certainly think it's something that we could do. And certainly worst case scenario would be money that'd be coming out of fund balance, which we continue to add to, but it's certainly something that we need to consider as we move forward. And I can tell y'all more about total costs once we get through these roofs. But any questions or any other comment, suggestion as far as that HVAC plan? Is that something y'all feel is a doable plan? Something I'd like to continue to pursue?
And what's the kickback from just waiting until it goes out? Just go down from
Getting it?
getting it?
The biggest thing, if we just continue to replace them right now, we've had 2 units go out already this year down at the field house that were 15 years old. But if we had, multiple units all of a sudden start going down, one, we don't have it necessarily budgeted to go over, but now that's downtime during school, how long is it going to take to get it while they don't have an AC unit?
That's
I
right.
would much rather do that in the summertime or plan it so that we're not losing classroom time when it's down, particularly because we know these are all past their, estimated life particularly.
I think I'd make a phone call to Neil tomorrow and ask him. If we ordered them today, we gonna get, he's gonna say, well, let me check, I'm not real sure. But the reason I'm saying is because lightning struck our house, we lost a unit. He had to rebuild it because he could not get to the unit.
If you do this,
Those are certainly issues.
So, I
that-
mean, if it's an issue to where it's 6 months out or it's a year out, we might want to go ahead and order a couple
So that's the,
and have it stock.
Neil, I just need you to hold
Put
on
it in
to
the
these.
rock den.
I mean, seriously,
Yeah, you're right.
something, I mean, Neil would store it, but you see my point.
Yeah,
If one of those 25-year unit goes
I will.
out, we can't get it for.
I will discuss him. He said he did not mention that big deal. He did say there were some issues of having some come in, and he was gonna look at different manufacturers. What I've asked him for the prices on these is to give us similar quality, that y'all, as a board, as a district, we've been happy with those train and carrier units, particularly with how long they've lasted. Some of the ones we've done just simple replacements on have been some of the lesser brands, so I asked him to quote if we're gonna do a major issue here with either those train or carriers. He did not mention long wait times. He did earlier, when we had those 2 replaced at the field house.
Yeah.
But he was able to get those, so I can certainly check with him.
You see my concern.
Absolutely. But this really would be probably, if we can, especially those rooftop ones, that's probably a summer. He's got a note on there, it would take him 18 days, and particularly if he can do them all at one time when they're taking them down and off with that crane, would be helpful. Now, some of that's going to be an issue, and I haven't really discussed them. If we do a roof replacement on that middle school, you got to take them all down, do the roof, and then bring that crane. So it may not save us as much doing it that way, but it's something we're going to have to do anyway if we replace that roof. But I'll do more pursuing on that, but I just wanted to kind of present that. What I'd like to do is, if we're happy with that, is, like many things here at the district, is make sure that we have that kind of agreed upon and have it in a place that we continue to move forward in those replacements, and that it doesn't kind of get lost in in a shuffle, and then we get back to where we have 20-year-old units or something where we don't continue with that.
Prefer to be proactive rather than reactive, at least as far as the plan.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you have to react.
And we are. There's going to be units of this that go out. It's not all going to work this way. We're going to have 15-year units that die, and you're going to have 20-year units that still run. And it's flexible enough to flip some stuff. Just like here at the administration building, when I said these are the next oldest, it's hard for me to say, let's replace these units when we have the elementary that's right behind it. You know, it may be that we flip the elementary and do that one instead of doing the, and this one gets pushed off while we do classrooms. So it's certainly not, has to be these years, but it gets pretty close once it gets there. Go ahead.
Do you think the savings of the ideal people we're talking about is due to the fact that we have 25-year-old units on that one over there? We have 11-year-old units in elementary?
I think there's going to be some of that. I think you're going to have, even with some of the remodels over here, but when they're pulling it, basically they just can't guarantee that they can save enough money to pay it back, and they're in their estimated time frame that they want to for that next 32. The biggest savings are your high school, which you think of our high school is our most inefficient building because there's no AC in the hallways, and the windows above those doors are pulling it all out in the hallway, and so it's constantly running to fill that back up. Those are just going to be the most, and they're actually the third oldest units that we have here behind the cafeteria. That'd be the next group.
I'm just.
Well, this means they're gonna make less money. If that is what you're saying is true, and they've taken that into calculation, if we go put a new unit up,
It's just gonna be.
We're just going to pay it back sooner.
Pay it back sooner, what they've done. I don't know, I just was wondering if that.
I think that's part of it. I think those are inefficient. I think they're older units. I think that it's older buildings. And you have more kids in and out all the time. And once you think that elementary, once they're in there, those doors, outside doors stay
because they're over
closed.
there learning, right?
But this building being
All
included.
day every day,
it's
sir.
kind of throws
All day
it.
every day.
This one?
Yeah.
I think this one was, wasn't it?
Wasn't this the one of the ones that's excluded?
This one's excluded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one is excluded.
People don't come in and out of the doors all day long.
Nope. Go in there and the office goes late.
Some of us go in there and put our feet up until Rusty calls.
Then it takes 10 times.
All right, but I wanted to present that just as a starting. I will check with Neil. I'd like to probably bring something back next month where we have more of a hard figure of what we may do with that. And that'll kind of lead us into the next one, Ms. Nelson, when you're ready.
Discuss possible roof repairs, replacement.
So 2 roofs that we know, the science wing, as we learned last time, needs to be replaced. I've gotten a few prices on that. I'm waiting on a few more. It's probably going to be mid-30s. Looks like somewhere between 35 and 40 to replace that. The high school roof, the prices have gone up, or the middle school roof, I'm sorry, is the next one. And that's probably going to be somewhere in the 120 to 130 range. So we're going to look at between 150, 170,000 for those 2 roofs. As RJ just brought up, I have talked to those folks. It's 6 to 8 months out for material. So if we're going to do that this summer, we need to have that probably approved next month. So if we wanted to do, those would be the TPO roofs.
This will be one that, whatever we do with the science lab, we'll want to replace in 10 years again.
No, I don't have the warranty. I'll have warranties when I come back, but they're going to be 15 to 20-year warranties on those. We're not going to get 30 like we did on that high school roof, but they're going to be 15 to 20. That's what these TPO warranties are going to be.
Got over on somebody with that high school.
Well, those tar and gravel ones are a little different, but we're not going to get 30. Well, let me rephrase that. You can, but you're going to pay a lot more. I think I did see a 30, but we paid more. But I'd like to bring those prices back next month, because if we're going to try to do it this summer, we certainly need to. And like we talked about, best case scenario, we've got enough in our budget to cover it. But we need to go into this knowing or thinking that most likely, we're going to be taking somewhere about, $250,000 out of our fund balance. If we can cover it through the budget, then we feel really good about it. But that's certainly not a guarantee that we could. So I don't want to make that promise now that, we can do it. I think there's a good possibility that we can, but I think worst case scenario, when we make these decisions, we think, we'll be pulling out of that. We certainly put a good chunk back last year, and depending on our audit, we feel like we'll put another good chunk back in our fund balance this year. And it's healthy enough that we'll be able to do it, but it's certainly something that we need to do sooner than later. We've kind of patched that up. They're going to do a little more repair on that science wing since it is going to be 6 to 8 months. We just kind of short patch it until they can get back out here and really do some repair where it's peeling back. But it'll be, I think, March before they can get out here to do that roof. And then the middle school roof we need to put on the books so we can have it in the summer because they do have to take all the air off of that one to do.
We'll make some action items on the last one.
Yes, I'd like to bring that back next month if anybody with hard prices. I think roughly we're going to look at $250,000. I think it may be a little less than that. It may be, depending on what we do with these air conditioners, if we're looking at, $60,000-65,000 on those rooftop units plus, $150,000-$170,000, and that would be somewhere $250,000 or less. But I think $250,000 may be our worst case if the prices hold where they are now. That certainly could change between now and then. Any questions? Any other questions, maybe?
Item 13, superintendent's report.
Very good. Our first school safety audit, we had an intruder that we hire every 3 years that comes and tries to get in the buildings. He came in, was stopped at every building and asked who he was, why he was in here. Most of the buildings, due to our locking systems, he couldn't easily just walk in. But he did find his way in, and some of these buildings were let in, but even as he walked down the hall, he had his pass in his pocket. I had multiple people stop him, so our report out of that came back very good on all of our campuses. He is a friendly-looking gentleman. Coach Charles Swan was our intruder, but he was here, but we got a good report out of that, so we get that every 3 years for our school safety audit. Our next one, connectivity grant. Mark does many, many good things here, just as our tech person. But one thing he does a great job of is continually watching out for grants and opportunities for us. He stayed on top of this grant, and they made a slight change in what we could apply for. And Mark brought it in, and we applied, and we were awarded $85,000 in Chromebooks that does not have to be paid back. So 360 Chromebooks have been ordered. We did issue a purchase order and then took it back out because they're actually going to pay directly to the company. So they are on their way and should be here this week. So that takes a huge chunk of what we were going to have to replace over the next couple of years off the books. So kudos to Mark. When you see him, he did a great job making sure that we got all that done. Then on the next page, just update overall to our district improvements. Our elementary gym floor is completed. It has been installed. It does look great. It's going to be a really good for our kids. We still got to go back in and get the baseboard in, and they're going to repaint those walls. They've got all of those things in there currently, but it came out really good. They drilled volleyball standards for us in there as we're sorry because we have been inconvenienced you. However, in our high school gym, they came and drilled our competition standards and put in the wrong size, and then had to come out and put some new ones in there, and they still didn't work. So they're having to come back out. So at this point, I think that we may get a good chunk of those given to us as well. But that part of it has not been completed. So some of that was due to some shipping COVID delays. And then once they got here, the first set was just the wrong set. The second set was actually drilled to the wrong size. So some of it's on them, some of it's not, but we'll continue to work to make sure that we get our competition standards and then also the 3 practice standards for the high school gym.
How many more weeks of volleyball do we have?
Not enough to use those standards. Trust me, I promise you, the gentleman understands that. So we do have the standards. We're going to continue to use the ones that we have because of that. So not a real good scenario, but we are working through that to try to get those finished. Down at the sports complex, the old batting cage has been removed, all the tires, some of those things, as they're kind of prepping to redo that. And then also Buster's working on in front of the baseball field, smoothing that back out, give us a nice, it's not really gravel, but smooth rock parking lot so that it's easier to get out. I know that's been an issue the last several years with holding water. And people trying to walk into there, and he will remove Mount concession stand dirt pile back there. Spread that out. So he's done a good job for us out there, but all of that's going on, so just trying to work through those things. That's all I got.
We going into executive session at 8:04 PM. Discuss personnel according to Texas Government Code Section 551.074. Discussion of personnel, discussion concerning possible purchase and value of real property. Government Code Section 551.072. We'll take a short recess, reconvene in executive session. Easy for me to say.
Ready?
All right, we're ready. We are returning to regular session at 8:26 PM. Next item on the agenda is adjourned. Do we have a motion?
I got a motion to adjourn.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second? Do we all in favor, raise your right hand.
Yes, majority.
It's unanimous. All opposed? Go for your step.